Okay, welcome to our workshop. My name is Tess and I work as the handwriting lead at Twinkl. So my job is essentially to help you as educators to deliver handwriting and teach handwriting within your settings through delivering the best possible teaching resources at the right time. And basically at Twinkl, we offer a wide range of different content and different products to support with handwriting, including a handwriting scheme, a variety of different resources, intervention materials, and also a digital app as well. So there's lots of different things that we offer. In terms of before that, my background is in education. So I've worked in lots and lots of different roles as a play worker, a teacher, and one of my favourite things that I've done is working with TAs as a SENCO as well, so and a SEN teacher. So I have a lot of experience of what the TA role is like and some of the huge impact that you can have through running high quality interventions. So in terms of what we'll be running through today, we will basically be, first of all, discussing why it's important to deliver handwriting interventions. I'll then be running through some top tips for how to deliver handwriting interventions. And then I'll be talking a bit about how Twinkl can help. So what you can use from Twinkl to support you in delivering those interventions. As Emily mentioned earlier, we will have time for questions and answers at the end. So the first thing I wanted to, as I mentioned, the first thing I wanted to explore is about why it is important to deliver handwriting interventions. So in this, especially in this kind of digital age that we live in, there can be some controversy around handwriting. And some people will say that actually nowadays children can type their words, or that cursive handwriting can be old-fashioned, or it can be quite boring to deliver. And so something I wanted to kind of address at the beginning is some of the benefits of delivering handwriting interventions. And I think something that I always think about is that although we have so many different ways of teaching nowadays, and we have lots of digital tools and resources, if you think about in a school, there's still a huge amount of time that children will spend writing. So if children can become fluent and confident in handwriting, it actually supports them across so many parts of their day and their activities. So then moving on to some of the benefits of delivering handwriting interventions. So the first thing that I would say is that by delivering handwriting interventions and addressing any barriers to learning in that area, we're supporting learners to in their physical development. So if we think about down in early years, one of the key things that we want to focus on with children is their physical development, their fine motor skills and their gross motor skills. And the way that that kind of continues into the Key Stage 1, Key Stage 2 level is part of that is the handwriting and those physical fine motor skills. So you can support children in that way. You can also help learners to be able to communicate their ideas clearly. As I mentioned before, reducing everyday challenges. So all of that time that they are spending on a task that involves some form of writing is then made that little bit easier through becoming more confident in their handwriting. It can also boost children's confidence and their creativity and their sense of pride in the work that they're producing, and it can help them to develop skills for life. So as adults, we often write, through note-taking, filling in forms and things like that. So these are, through supporting children with the handwriting, you're helping them to develop basic skills that they will be able to use throughout their lives. And a key thing is that I really wanted to kind of highlight is the idea that the more that learners develop fluency in how to write, so through their spelling and their handwriting, the more that they can then focus on the ideas that they want to share. So once children become more fluent and their handwriting becomes more automatic, that's the point that then they have more headspace opened up to consider what are the ideas that I want to communicate, or what is the ambitious vocabulary that I want to use, or how do I want to structure my sentence. But by building that foundation and those physical skills, you can really support the child across the whole curriculum. So the next thing I wanted to talk a little bit about was left-handed writers. So very often at Twinkl, we find that lots of customers ask about this. And so I thought this was a really good topic to focus on. So learners with a dominant left hand will sometimes experience challenges with their writing. Not always, but it's just there's a little bit more of that risk. So I think one thing that as a TA can be really valuable is to really get to know who those left-handed learners are within your class or the year group that you work in. So it might be in the same way as you might learn within this class, this is who the children that speak English as an additional language are. You might want to make sure that you know who those left-handed learners are, and if they need any support or they're experiencing any barriers to learning within their handwriting. You might want to, as you're doing those observations and getting to know the children, consider the positioning of left-handed learners within the classroom. So, for example, you might want them to sit at the end. If you've got a row of desks, you might want to ensure that they're sitting at the edge where so that they have space on the left and their elbow isn't banging into the right-handed learner sitting beside them to their left, if that makes sense. So looking at that and making sure that they're really comfortable. You might want to use resources to scaffold the learning. So you can see underneath we have those little posters, or it's like a sort of desktop mat. So that's something that would be really handy for you to print off, and you can put it on the child's desk so they've got that prompt so they can see the correct letter formations and they can go back to that. That can really, training children to use those scaffolds as well can really help them to be more independent, because they're looking at a resource rather than looking to an adult to get that sort of first layer of help. Something that you can do is display the text on the other side. So you can see on these resources, the text is on the right rather than the left. And this means that, say if children when they're writing left to right, they are writing with their left hand, their hand isn't covering up the text that they're trying to copy. So on Twinkl, we actually have lots of left-handed alts, which are versions of resources where the text is on the other side so that children can still see it when they're copying. And basically the way that you can, so I did put here at the bottom of the slide, click more downloads to find alts or request a left-handed version. So I think this is a really handy tip to be aware of if you have a Twinkl subscription, is if you click on, so on the resource, if you click on download, sorry, underneath the download now, if you click where it says more downloads, you can find all of the alts that are available. And if you click where it says left-handed alt, you'll be able to print off that version with the text on the other side. On there, you can, if you find there isn't a left-handed version, you can also put in a request to ask for Twinkl designers to create a left-handed version for you as well. So I think is a really good top tip to be aware of. Again, thinking about the specific role of a TA or someone working in supporting children with their learning. I think it's these are a really good resource to be aware of, because they're a way that we can sort of individualize the learning to meet the particular needs of the children. Yeah, and the last thing I was going to mention is you might find with some of the children that you would like them to do an intervention. So you might group together left-handed children, or you might integrate them within a little focus group or an intervention if you want to. But I think it's of course very dependent on the particular learner and what their needs are. So again, that getting to know the children and watching them in the class, observing them, and figuring out what exactly it is that they might need is really good with left-handed learners. So what I'm going to move on to now is talking a little bit about so now we've talked about why it's important to deliver handwriting interventions, now how you can do that. So the first thing I wanted to kind of highlight was that really when you think about handwriting, although it's a basic skill, there are so many different things that come into play and that children bring together when they are doing handwriting. And these different, so there's lots and lots of layers and lots of things to think about. And these skills you can really use, if you can pinpoint what skills children struggle with, you can then integrate that and really highlight that within interventions. So on this slide is a list of some of the key skills that children need for success within handwriting. So they need to be able to have strong fine motor and gross motor skills. So their physical skills are a really important foundation. And these are skills that you can develop with children further through interventions. Pencil grip, the spacing of their letters as well. The size of the letters, so learning to distinguish between which letters are tall letters and which letters are small letters, and get that distinction of the sizing. Of course, joining is a huge part of the curriculum. So joining might be something that you are supporting children with once they are secure in their letter formation. And of course, letter formation is a really key part as well. So understanding the correct way to form the letters and the directions and things like that. So yeah, lots and lots of skills to work on. I've also put writing stamina and speed is also really important, but of course that's more of a advanced skill that you would develop with children once they are more confident in those kind of key fine motor skills and letter formation. So I'm going to do a little interactive activity now, just to explore that idea of the different skills a little bit further. So I have got here a few writing examples from some children, and what would be really great if you could do is basically I'm just going to show you them, and if you could just type just in the chat any of your ideas of what you think the child would need to work on next. So for example, if you were working in a little focus group for within a handwriting lesson, and the child beside you was this was their writing, what would you say would be the next thing that they might need to work on or practice within an intervention? Yeah, I think there was that's really interesting to see. So I think we had a lot of lots of the very similar ideas coming out of that. Yeah, so spacing would be key. So obviously you can see the child is squashing in the letters and they're not leaving very much space in between. A tip actually that I heard about recently that I thought was really nice was the idea of using like a lollipop stick to support children with finger spaces instead of a finger space, because basically as children get older, their fingers obviously get bigger, so the spaces will get bigger, and actually what we want to support children with is so the finger works obviously further down the school, but as children get older we want to teach them to use smaller spaces between their words. So the tip was basically you could try using a lollipop stick, and then as they get more confident you could introduce like a coffee stirrer because it's a little bit narrower. So I thought that was a really nice idea as well. So yeah, so spacing, positioning, writing on the line, because the letters are kind of falling under the line a little bit as well. Yeah, really nice ideas. We have puppet finger spaces that you can stick on the lollipop sticks as well. Yeah, lovely. Yes, there's some great ideas there. Ascenders as well, and punctuation. Really nice ideas. Okay, I will show you the next sample now. So with this child, you can see the spacing is there's a big gap between that first T. They're obviously, bless them, trying to form those lead-in strokes that you would use as you were starting to develop joining as well. They're trying to use them, but you can. It almost looks as if the child is potentially like adding in lead-in strokes. So it looks like they need a bit more support with that letter formation. Get the letter formation secure, and then have that, and then go into the joining and lead-in strokes as well. I think if I compare this one to that previous one as well, the child, it doesn't look as though their fine motor skills are necessarily as secure as well. So yeah, some really nice ideas. And I like that idea as well of the copying. So copying can be a skill. That recognition of different letters and copying can be a skill in itself as well. And spelling as well is, although that I know that's a kind of a different skill. I know very often teachers really enjoy that. Teachers and educators really like to kind of combine practicing handwriting with practicing spelling as well. So yeah, that's some really nice ideas there. Thank you. So basically what you want to do is, once you kind of have that sense of what the barriers to learning the child is, which barriers to learning the child is experiencing, then can think about how we're going to help them through using intervention. So I've got on this slide, I've basically put my sort of go-to structure that I would use often in a school if I was doing any intervention. So this is what I would kind of say, yeah, it would be my go-to structure, whether I was teaching handwriting, whether I was teaching speech and language, reading fluency, any intervention. I think this structure can work really well for. So the first thing I would do if I was delivering an intervention is explain to the children the objective, so what we are learning today in a child-friendly way. I then would think about something that can be a warm-up, so that might be something that's going to capture their attention and get them excited and engaged in that learning. So it might be, for example, doing something with Play-Doh. It might be doing something that's involves like some physical skills, some fine motor warm-ups and things like that. I would then think about what my main teaching is going to be, so the modelling of the skill and showing them what I want them to practice. I would then allow time for the children in the group to practice that skill. Again, sometimes as well when I've done intervention, something that I like to do is model side by side. So I would do like an initial, this is what you're going to do in a minute. And then once the children are doing that activity, I would have a sheet myself and do it alongside them. And then if you've got a child that maybe is struggling a little bit more, you can then show them what you're doing and kind of do it step by step again with them. And then finally, I would finish with a plenary or a reflection time. So that might be where you bring the children back together. You might look at what you've achieved within the lesson, within the intervention. You might look at the work that you've completed and reflect on those objectives that you've met within the session. You might also think about linking it back to that transition back into the classroom as well. So how are we going to practice this? Say we're focusing on the finger spaces, for example. We're going to go back into class now. Let's practice our finger spaces when we go back into class and we do our classwork. So then what I would, I also wanted to say we also have on Twinkl a really lovely resource which is a TA one-to-one intervention record. So you can use this to plan out that session. Now, that can seem like a lot of planning and a lot of thought needs to go into that. So I will show you that on Twinkl, we do like to make things very easy for our educators. So we do have resources that can support you with delivering that as well. So just to put this in a bit more context. So this is now an example of how I would use that structure using the Twinkl resources. So on Twinkl, we have 2 interventions for handwriting. The first one is called Flying Start, and it has been especially designed for Key Stage 1 children, and it essentially focuses more on that fine motor and gross motor skill. There is then another intervention which is called Racing Ahead, which is targeted at Key Stage 2, and it is for embedding some of that letter formation and joining skills. So I will talk about that a little bit more later, but I just wanted to show you basically how we would use that within this structure. So to give you an example lesson here, my objective might be to write with the correct pencil grip and writing posture. I would then do a warm-up, so I'm going to use scissors to cut out a jigsaw activity. I would then do the main teaching, so I've already told the children that we're focusing on pencil grip and shown them how to do that. I'm then going to model how to use the correct pencil grip within this activity, which is colouring in the wheels on a race car. And then going to allow them time, so I'm going to show them how to do it first of all and talk them through what I'm doing, what my thought process is, and then I'm going to give them time to have a go by themselves. And as I said, I would do that side-by-side modelling. So where there's a child that might find it more difficult, I'm going to show them, right, this is exactly what I'm doing. Now, this might seem a little bit like, oh, but that's not handwriting, that's colouring in. But that's because when we think about this particular objective, developing the pencil grip, this is an opportunity for them to embed that set skill. So obviously, when we're doing an intervention, we can really break down some of those barriers to learning or those skills that children need a bit more support with, and really, focus in on them and help them to become more confident and more fluent. I also want to highlight, so we do have taster packs as well on Twinkl, which you can download for free, so that you can sort of try out and look at the resources before you, if you don't have a subscription, you can just try them out and kind of learn a bit more about them and try them out with children first of all. So then I wanted to show you just a little bit more about how that intervention is structured and works. So they are designed to last for 6 weeks altogether. And this is, so they do have a weekly overview that you can download, which for each of the weeks, and there are 5 sessions in total. Now, I obviously appreciate from working in schools, you might not have time to do 5 sessions, do a session every single day. But I think the beauty of these resources is that they can be used flexibly to support the children that you have in your school and what suits your class and your setting. So this allows you to have 5 resources to embed that one kind of key skill or key bit of learning, and you could use it flexibly as you wish. So you might find you want to do all 5 sessions within a week, or you might spread it out further. You might do them once a week, or you might just do 3 sessions. It can be used however works best for your children. So as I said, we have a weekly overview to give you a full picture of what you'll be doing with the children. Then there is a session plan. So for each session, there is planning for it. So this is in this example, this is the Key Stage 1 resources. And there is a lovely, basically they begin with a gross motor, so a big muscle activity. So this one is all about doing different movements with their bodies to be like different animals. Then there is a fine motor activity, and then there is a sort of practical activity that the children can complete. So as I said, yes, we've got a weekly overview, a session plan, and then an activity sheet. There is also, I really love this about these resources, there is also a home learning activity. So you have an extra activity that you can print off and you can send home to parents as well. The other thing I would highlight as well about these resources that are really lovely is that they are really interactive and engaging and fun. So there's different things like, for example, dot to dots, puzzles, cutting exercises, lots and lots of different activities. So they're embedding those basic skills in through lots and lots of different ways, which keeps it nice and engaging and supportive to the children. Which leads me on to the next point that I'd like to make is that as TAs, it is really, really important to make handwriting engaging for children. So these are some of my kind of top tips on ways to do that, especially when you're working with small groups or with interventions. So one thing can be using themes. So as you saw with the Twinkl handwriting interventions, we use the racing car theme and the flying theme to really capture children's attention and make it more interesting for them. Another thing that you can do is you can take learning outdoors. So for example, if you have children that are still learning their letter formation, you might want to create letters like using outdoor materials like stones or leaves or flowers. You might want to do for example, a starter activity, if you have like those magnetic letters that we often use in phonics, what you could do is collect them together and do a little scavenger hunt in the outdoor space, looking for all those letters, and then get the children to say, oh, right, now we're going to learn how to write them. So taking the learning outdoors can be a really nice way of making it engaging. The other thing you can do is take multisensory approaches as well. So on this slide, you can see on the right where you have that S kit. Basically, this kind of really demonstrates that idea that you can teach in a way that can allow children to explore letters in a multisensory way. So it could be, for example, you're practicing forming the letter S. You could do it in let the child practice using rice, practice forming it in corn flour. You can practice forming it with a piece of string. On Twinkl, we also have an app, the Twinkl Handwriting and Letter Formation app, which allows children to practice individual letters, numbers, and shapes digitally. So this can be a really nice way. And I think especially when we think about some of the learners that you might be working with, giving them that opportunity of a little bit of choice and ownership over the way that they learn can be really powerful as well. It might be, as a TA, you might want to collect a bit of a toolbox. So you might have a box as well. It's your handwriting box, and you collect up your worksheets or your pieces of string or your scissors and things like that. All those different resources, keep them in one place, and then you can move them around quite easily around the school and things like that. So having a really multisensory approach can be really powerful. Okay, so, oh yes, and the other thing I was going to mention about engagement is my other top tip would be linking handwriting to either children's particular areas of interest, areas that they really enjoy learning about, or particular topics. So I've put 2 examples here. These were actually resources that very excitedly, we just released last week. So these are some topic-based handwriting booklets. So one of them is about artists, and one of them we released about the Harvest Festival for Harvest on Sunday. So you can look at, so if you type into Twinkl at handwriting booklets, you can find lots of booklets about different topics. So you can link them to seasonal lessons or seasonal learning that you might be doing, or topics of interest as well. So yeah, that's a really useful tip as well. The final thing I'm going to talk about for our Q&A is how Twinkl can help you with delivering these interventions. So I just wanted to kind of show you this. I've touched on a lot of this already, but I wanted to just show you all in one place, because I know when I started working at Twinkl, I was blown away by the sheer range of resources that are actually available on site. So the first one is, of course, as I mentioned, our handwriting interventions. So we offer 2 interventions. One, as I said, that we designed especially for Key Stage 1, and one that was designed for Key Stage 2. What I would say, though, is you can use these very flexibly. So you may find that you want to adjust it slightly, or you may find you want to use the Key Stage 1 one with older learners as well. That these can be used very flexibly according to what suits you. You don't have to use the Twinkl scheme to use the handwriting scheme to use the intervention as well. As I mentioned, we have an iOS app, the Twinkl Formation and Handwriting app. So this is available on iPads or iPhones as well. So this can be something that's quite handy, and it allows a different way of exploring handwriting too. It can also be useful for parents. We also have, this I'm very excited about, is we actually have some workbooks on site, which will be going onto the Twinkl shop, I believe, later this year, but they are available to download as downloadable resources. So these are, so we have some workbooks that can be used. There's one for Key Stage 1 letter formation, and then one for cursive, and one for continuous cursive for Key Stage 2. And there also is some mini workbooks which are linked to different letter families, so different groups of letters. So these are a really nice way. These would again be really nice for using through interventions. You could work through them gradually, or they could be something that would be really nice could be a really nice tool to share with parents as well. And then we also have videos. So we have 122 concept videos, which cover letter formations, cursive handwriting, which is where you join the letters together, and continuous cursive, which is where you join them together continuously. So starting from the line with the lead-in strokes and joining them together, and with the loops on the Y and the J and letters like that. I think these are really useful actually, because you can use them with the children, but you can use them with children to support with handwriting learning, but you can also use them for CPD as well. So as an adult, you can watch them and learn about a particular letter formation or particular ways of forming the letters as well. So that can be really, really useful.